Let's turn these billionaires into horror posters, because while some monsters hide under your bed, others hide on private islands. So let's start off with Jeff Bezos, whose net worth is about the size of 317 Burj Khalifas stacked on top of each other, if the dollar bills were $100 bills. So to start, let's add this cement ground with some trees on top of it, but we obviously need to remove some of this grass and use the patch tool to remove this trash can. Let's also put this image of the Space Needle behind the trees because that's where the goat is from, but Jeff Bezos is also from here. So next, I'll add an exposure layer to darken up the bottom of the trees and the top of the road to connect them together. I'll fix the color on the trees before adding a nice and creepy van in the middle of the road, but we need to change the color to look like an Amazon van, and we can't complete it without the Amazon logo. I'll use Blend If to blend it into the van and add a little street light in front of it. Let's make it look like that light is turned on and add some highlights onto the van and the ground. And this guy looks pretty dapper, so let's just remove his head and change the color of the suit. Let's make it look like he's leaning against the van before also adding a cooler behind it with a cardboard box as well. Obviously, these are going to need that Amazon logo as well, so let's add it to the box and the cooler. Then I'll add a human liver inside the cooler and make it look like it's actually inside of it. Let's give it some shadows and add some more body parts into the cardboard box. But to be honest, an arm isn't enough money. So let's add a leg and cut the top off. I'll add a red oval on the other side to give the leg some more depth, and then I'll add some shadows onto the body parts and the box. However, we still need to add Jeff. So let's put his little bald head into the suit and add some shadows. We also need to add some shadows onto the van, which shouldn't be too dark, but the ground below him should also have some shadows, so I'll do that as well. I also drew some shadows onto the ground for the cooler and the box, but that's a little boring. So now I'm gonna add a bunch of blood, starting with the box and moving on to the leg and the cooler on the left. I also felt like it would be nice to add some blood dripping out because that's pretty gross, but the van should also have some blood. And after we finish adding that, let's go around the image with some highlights. Alright, this looks pretty nice. Let's add Bezos in the Amazon font, and I think it would be cool if we put the Space Needle in front of it. I'll put a grungy metal texture on the title, but the bottom looks a little empty, so I searched up Amazon to get some inspiration, and this is the first thing I saw, so let's put that on the bottom of the poster before adding the Amazon Prime logo below it, because I feel like I shouldn't have to explain that one. The final thing we need to do with this poster is add a camera raw filter to fix up some textures and color grading. So here is the first of 3 billionaire horror posters. And since Halloween is coming up, let me know in the comments what your favorite candy is. This isn't what it's supposed to look like. Now hop into this elevator and let's head to the next billionaire's place. If you couldn't guess, this is Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark, give me the Zuck.
And if you were to put his net worth in a stack of $100 bills, it would be as tall as 75 Mount Fujis stacked on top of each other. And he's also probably stealing your data right now. I'll add this background with a bunch of books and make it a bit darker. Now let's add an old vintage style armchair in the middle before adjusting the legs. I'll take this image of a headless man in a suit that I got from Envato Elements and then manually erase the chair that he's sitting on. Let's put the headless man on the chair we added and adjust the lighting to fit the scene. I'm also gonna add the metal logo on the briefcase in the front just to stay on brand, I guess. I don't know. Let's use the pen tool to cut out the back of the neck on the suit before upscaling this image and cutting out his body using the select subject button with cloud selected. I'll still go around the image and fix it up a little bit before adding his head to the poster and fitting it into the suit. But there is an area below the neck that's a little cut off, so I'll just color over the area and then use the clone stamp tool to put his neck texture on top of it. Zuck is insanely pale in this image, so let's go over the hands with a brush tool to brighten them up. and then also add some shadows onto Zuck's neck, as well as the collar on the suit. I'm gonna remove a part of the leg over here and add some gray to look like the backside of the cloth, but we'll come back to that later. So in the meantime, let's add the other part of the Meta logo on the briefcase, and use the same font to type out Zuckerberg and add a texture. Let's put his first name above it before cutting out this crocodile leg and putting it in place of the leg we erased earlier. I'm gonna add some shadows to the lizard foot and onto basically everything else. Following that, we obviously need to add some blood onto the briefcase, and the suit, and the shirt too, don't forget about that. Let's also not forget about his hands, and also his mouth. I'm also going to put some books on the ground with some shadows just to add more to the environment, but let's get back to the lizard stuff. I'll make a cutout of this lizard eye and warp it into his eyes before adding some shadows. I'll add some cracks to his face and then put some lizard scales on it, and I'll just kind of use those cracks as a border to add in the scales and then fade them out. And after removing the cracks, I'll add an outer bevel and finally add that camera raw filter to bring it all together.
Nice job, team.
So here is the horror poster for Zuckerberg. Oh, and if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to subscribe, or I'll just break into your house and do it anyways, so you know what, you don't really have to. Now let's move on to our final billionaire, whose net worth in $100 bills would be higher than the ISS orbit. I mean, do you really even need that much money?
Give me that.
What?
Give me that.
Anyways, I'll add this background that looks like Mars, and I thought it would be a good idea to rotate the canvas, but it wasn't, so I'll just use the lasso tool real quick to cut out the ground, and then copy and paste the image to use as the sky so we don't have those buildings. Let's fade out the ground to look more dusty before adding Earth in the sky, which realistically would look like this, but you know, whatever. Let's add this astronaut suit I got from Envato Elements and add the Tesla logo in the middle. Let's make a cutout of the glass on the helmet so we can add Elon later. I'm also gonna select all the dark parts in the suit and make them red to match with the logo. Now let's take this spaceship that I also got from Envato Elements and put Tesla logos on the wings and blend them into the material. Let's add it to the poster with a harmonization effect to match the colors with the background. I'm gonna add some flames coming out of the back and duplicate it and then add some highlights. I also think we should add some stars to the sky since we're on Mars. I mean, not right now. Maybe I'm wrong. Editor, you gotta get to work. Let's change this text that I added to say Musk and adjust the size. I'll change the placement of the jet to be coming through the U and add some highlights from the flames. And I also added a shadow onto the text. But now let's put a moon texture on top of it with an inner bevel. Following that, I added some smoke and I'll cut out Elon's head and put it in the suit. Let's add some shadows onto his face. And to be honest, Elon Musk isn't this skinny, so let's use Liquify to make the body a little bit bigger, which I think actually does look better. Now let's use the select subject tool to select this Tesla robot and then just fix some smaller parts. Also, I do think we should change this light blue to red because horror, you know? Ooh. I'm gonna add some red glow on top of that red light, and now let's just add like 100 of them onto the poster. Now that that's done, let's add some haze onto the robots in the back and remove the legs on these ones. I'll use a smoke brush to add some, well, smoke, obviously. And yeah, that definitely looks a lot better. So one final thing we need to do before adding a camera raw filter is add some shadows coming from the robots. And like I said earlier, I'll bring it all together with a camera raw filter. So which poster was your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to text someone and tell them to have a good day. Anyways, check out one of these videos. They're even better than this one, maybe.